Hello and welcome to Galata Plus. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Thar, a kind of neo-western directed by Raj Singh Chaudhary. The film is on Netflix and it stars Anil Kapoor, Harshvardhan Kapoor and Fatima Sana Sheikh. At the opening, the lay of the land is laid out in a most brilliant fashion. The voiceover words are fantastic, and this, I suspect, is why we have a thank you card to Gulzar. Anil Kapoor plays the aging sheriff equivalent, an inspector named Surekha Singh. He's stuck in this one-horse border town in Rajasthan, and he is kind of not very happy about the lack of upward mobility in his career. But his wife is relieved that he has to do nothing but solve petty crimes and not go after really big stuff. And besides, with promotions, she knows that he cannot handle hierarchical politics. So she's very happy that he remains the inspector that he is. Their son, however, says that he will study for the IPS exam and become a really big police officer and lord over his father. These little character touches paint the picture of a man who is so not prepared for what's about to happen. Someone is butchered and killed, a couple is shot dead while their daughter is making out with a lover somewhere else, and things are stolen. Anurag Kashyap is the dialogue writer. His delightfully vulgar phrasings add a ton of flavor to the classically visualized narrative which is painted in the colors of the desert. Every image, right down to the costumes, is color coordinated with the colors of the Thar. There isn't one color that clashes. This is a gorgeous looking movie, and that makes the ugliness at the center of it even more ugly. Going back to the Western analogies, Harshvardhan Kapoor plays the mysterious stranger in town. Satish Kaushik plays the sheriff's sidekick. He is as unprepared as his master to solve any kind of crime, and the local saloon is replaced by a tea house. The premise is interesting, especially in the setup stage, and there is some social commentary scattered throughout. The patriarchy blames the woman for a couple's childlessness. A man slaps his wife because she allowed a stranger to enter their house while this man was away. It's a sawal to his izzat. There are a few lines about oppressed castes. Dacoits belong to these castes, and even today, these castes are shunned in these areas. Let's say a man from one of these castes opens a tea shop. He would end up with no patrons, even if he was a very, very good cook. The film even touches on the general lack of education in these areas, which makes the literate men stand out. The narrative is woven from two strands. One is whether Anil Kapoor will crack the case, and the second is about the Harshvardhan character. Who is he and why is he doing the things that he does? And what is he after? When we find out at the end, the answers are utterly underwhelming. And in between, we have opium smuggling back and forth across the border. A man named Hanif Khan is presented as the poster boy smuggler, but none of these characters and none of these events are written with any kind of depth. And without any help from the writing, no one except the veterans Anil Kapoor and Satish Kaushik are capable of fashioning flesh and blood character, at least a semblance of a flesh and blood character of their own. Harshvardhan Kapoor and Fatima Sana Sheikh appear miscast in this milieu. We don't feel the rage that is simmering inside them. The only aspect detailed with care is the graphic violence. I think the filmmakers were after a Chinatown kind of narrative, a slow burn kind of narrative, where you peel layer and then you find another layer and then you peel that layer and you find yet another layer. And there's also the plot point of a man who sets out to solve a case and gets utterly overwhelmed by the circumstances. But one, there are not all that many layers, and two, the layers that do exist aren't terribly exciting or interesting. Writing is as spare as the desert. It's clean, it's uncluttered, but this lack of texture also robs the film of momentum. The segues between one scene and the next seem airless and still, and they don't keep accelerating in our minds. They should be accelerating in our minds, even if not on screen. This is not about feeling for the characters. This is more about being involved with them and caring about their fate, being invested in what happens to them. By the time Thar winds down, you're left with more questions than answers, but at least the film looks beautiful. So that's it about Thar. If you like this video, do subscribe to Galata Plus and see you soon at the movies.